what were the biggest concerns about your school and sexual assault among students on campus?
I mean, there was no sexual assault policy, so there was like no definition of what consent even was. I mean, which doesn't exactly produce an environment at this university where, you know, people are conscious of each other's boundaries, for starts. And I mean, the policy, like the lack of policy, I think gives a lot of, or gave a lot of students the feeling that their university didn't care about them and wasn't concerned for their safety, which is not a healthy environment.
And the school's response didn't exactly make any, you know, room for comfort at all. So,
you know, like we pay a lot of money to go to this institution, and we should feel confident that the university is looking out for us. And I think that was like really worrying to a lot of people, that it didn't seem like the university even cared that there was a problem with assault on campus or off campus, you know, among their student population. So I think we really wanted to put pressure on the school to like acknowledge that this is a problem that needs to be taken care of, and they're obligated to take care of it.
Also, the fact that the school, what was it? You know more about the exact statistics, but
not reporting.
Yeah, the school,
school
did not
wasn't
follow
reporting.
the Clery Act.
Still
and it
isn't.
just
Yeah, they're still not
is not.
following the Clery Act. Luckily for them, they apparently, I mean, as of the last article written about it, they contacted the Department of Education, and now they're going to go back and fix their statistics, because you can do that. However, they have been violating federal law for the past few years, because every single year the statistic for forcible rape has been 0, but as an RA, I've heard that there have been way more than that reported. And the standards are that when you report a crime, like even the crimes that are reported are supposed to fall into the crime statistics. You're supposed to show them to the federal government, but they haven't been doing that at all. Whether or not, you know, the final verdict comes out, whether, you know, the person is guilty or not, you still have to report it. You still do. So that was a major problem. And we needed to address that issue with transparency, and also the fact that under the current policy, I guess sexual assault is listed under sexual harassment, which means it's not necessarily dealt with as carefully. And also the fact that the details as to like the hearing and like what constitutes a disciplinary hearing for something like this, there was no indication of how that would go. So anyone reporting something like sexual assault wouldn't know what they were getting into. They wouldn't know if they would have to face their attacker, or, you know,
To retell their
or
story
they would have to,
5 times.
we heard, I mean, there's someone in our group who recently had to go through the process, and she said that she had to retell her story several different times to the same person over and over again.
Multiple people. Like,
Oh, yeah, to multiple
she
people.
She said she had to repeat her story over a dozen times.
Yeah, possibly for the sake of, you know, them catching a hole in it or something, or seeing some kind of inconsistency.
Or
And
that's
of
at least how
course,
she felt.
yeah, and she said that they felt like, or she said that she felt like they were trying to like pick holes in her argument, or in her story, and she said that she was completely traumatized because she had to keep on rehashing the experience, and that's not sensitive at all, especially to someone who has undergone something like sexual assault. They have to be way more sensitive to it, and they're not.
I think it's such a difficult thing to come forward and say, and the lack of clarity in our policy previously, or the lack of a sexual assault policy even existing previously, made people even more hesitant to come forward at all. So I think that was a big issue that had to be addressed.
They also don't make it available anywhere.
It's not on
I had
the
to-
internet.
yeah.
It's not in the handbook.
No.
It doesn't exist
For
for somebody to find.
For the event we had with Safer, I had to like procure copies of the sexual assault policy, and I had to Google it because I couldn't find it anywhere. Like, it was
You couldn't find it on the school
completely
website at all.
Wasn't
Yeah.
accessible to them.
I mean, in spring 2010, one of the health services reps here, she went looking for it because she couldn't find it. Like, I asked her, I'm like, hey, do you know at all where this thing could be found? Because I'm writing about it and I need to find it. And she looked, and she had to go to several different parts of the new school's website. And she finally found in this like tiny corner, you can't find it in the student handbook, by the way, nothing about it. But she found it like in some really arbitrary place, and it wasn't even the school's policy, it was just kind of like the New York state law regarding sexual assault. So clearly the school didn't really take a stance on it before we came around and tried to fix this.
And now is it posted like in the student handbook on the website?
Not as of yet. That's something that
Not
we
until
are
the
working
fall.
on.
Okay.
They have told us it will be in the fall.
Yeah,
right?
it should be in the handbook.